TFT he jugado 2 veces en mi vida y...
Bien, ¿qué haces?
Yo el TFT, la única que jugué, la gané y dije, ya está,
Mira, Grimro
suficiente.
dirigiendo.
Guys, and welcome to Exilecon Day 2 and the streamer roundtable here. We're going to be talking pretty much everything that happened yesterday. PoE 2. And I'm joined by Ghazzy, Valina, and DS Lilly here. And yesterday was an
De la en medio
incredible
jugué una
day.
build de
So
estas.
much was
Me
announced.
gustó mucho.
6 new classes for PoE 2. PoE 2 as a standalone game, and of course, so many more customization options. I don't even know what to think. What was your main takeaway, Lilly? Seeing that massive announcement. For 4 years, we haven't heard anything.
Oh, it was crazy. I think it's going to be a really good change of pace. So, PoE 2, it's like a lot
La veo
slower
rara.
in the
Uy, qué
demo.
poquita cosa
that
de
might
Lilly,
scare
¿no?
some people,
Es
but
súper
it felt
delgada.
like in a good way to
Es muy
me.
chiquitita.
Like,
De hecho, aquí se la ve casi alta y todo.
turn your brain off completely. I mean, if you want to do that, then I guess.
No me había dado cuenta, claro, en comparación a otra persona.
Like,
¿Te imaginas que me tiran a pazo pan en estas charlas?
No.
They're
Te
just
puede
so
llamar,
much
no sé
faster
qué,
than
que lo
me,
llamo
and
a-
Preguntaron
the
ayer en
gear
el
was a little
chat.
weird in the
pero
demo, like,
obviamente
Yeah.
se jodió.
so I
Si
think
pa'
it'll end up
Poedos iba a
actually
estar
being
baneado.
a little bit faster than what we played, but
Oh, absolutely. The Warrior, I actually took some notes. The Warrior only had 35%.
¿De quién habláis? ¿Que me he perdido?
Like Act 4, which is like kind of
Que
Act
si
7.
pasas más ibas a
you're
estar baneado para
you're
poder.
Yeah.
dealt
Ha
with
sido
a bit of
permabaneado.
a hand there on the Warrior for
Ajá.
sure. Yeah. What
Porque
about you, Ghazzy?
llamó,
What was
no sé qué,
main
le
takeaway
deseo
from
el
yesterday?
cáncer
That
a
massive
Chris Wilson,
announcement.
¿vale?
I mean,
Una borrada.
obviously
Esto lo pondrán
looking
sub en
at the
YouTube,
minion
lo
aspect of things,
subtitula
but
YouTube.
I think that the pace of
Y
the
los
game is
subtítulos son en
definitely
inglés.
in a much slower state. Obviously, we're playing at a
Esta no sé
the
cuál era,
gameplay that
pero
we've been playing for
de bien.
PoE 2
Este
has
es
been
colega.
a difficulty that's ramped up quite significantly.
¿No?
Which obviously presents us with
Este es
a
amante
bit
de
of
los
a
minions a
skewed
tope.
Es negro.
experience
Este
from
es
what I
el-
think we're going to see
Este es el
in
de
the
lo
next
de
year's
Peltre
El de la
de
SRS que he mandado.
but outside
Sí.
of that, I felt like the generic play style where we gather a lot of enemies up and then we burst them down in a
Y ella en
big
negro.
AoE pack and then move on to the next one, which is kind of the
Bueno.
main play style that we see from a lot of zoom
Vale,
in
este sí, a
veces no.
PoE1 does not really
Este sí que es
work
full
in
minion
PoE2,
toda la
at least the
liga,
gameplay
full.
we've been doing. I play the Sorcerer and whew, that
I
was
mean,
rough.
one thing to note though is they gave us a blue weapon with 1 mod on it. Even the Warrior in Act 4, 1 mod. It's like, oh man, they made it really tough.
they did.
Están
So
quejándose
what
de
about you,
esto.
Valina? What
De
was
las
your
armas con un
main
modificador azul.
De que era demasiado-
big, shocking takeaway.
How smooth the co-op gameplay was. I was actually just impressed incredibly by how smooth it was with having those two on the screen
No puedo
together
creerlo, abierto por
and
desgracia.
interacting with one another without just one speeding up ahead over the other and completely annihilating things while the other one's just lagging behind. That was really impressive to me. It made it like I actually wanted to do co-op gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things with PoE is kind of, because you kind of feel like you have to one-shot the monsters a little bit in PoE 1, but because there's like a little bit more opportunity for all these crazy synergies and big burst windows and stuff like that, I feel like group play might actually be like a whole lot more pronounced in PoE 2 potentially.
Exactly. It seems actually viable to do group play without just having an Orabot with
Pero
you.
igual que en Dark Souls, si te puedes
Absolutely,
contra un bicho de ese tamaño turnarte el agro,
yeah,
es
there
una
was
enorme
so many
ventaja.
things for PoE 2, but there was also the new PoE 1 league, Trial of the Ancestors. Did you guys, what was your impression of that league? We didn't get too much info, you know, the tattoos, the new mode, but what did you guys like? What's your main takeaway from that? We'll start with you, Ghazzy.
I'm a big fan of tattoos, as you might see. I mean, I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
I'm also a big fan of TFT and Dota Battle Chess or Auto Battle games in general. I'm very excited for it. Then again, I also feel that there is obviously the concern that we're going to end up with a situation where the players are so geared up to their teeth that they're just going to ignore the actual mechanic, just rush for the totems, and it's over. So it's going to be fun to see how they balance that to make sure that we actually
Dice
engage
lo mismo
with
que
the
yo.
mechanic to
¿Eh?
play the actual boss.
Ha dicho lo mismo que hemos dicho nosotros ayer.
Sí.
And, yeah, I think
Para quien no lo haya entendido, Ghazzy, que es un tío que conoce bastante bien el juego, dice: va a llegar un momento que el jugador va a superar por mucho en gear, en equipo, a los NPCs. Tengo curiosidad por saber cómo lo balancean para soportarlos.
I'm not sure what to expect when creating my party. And if I really am going to need that party, I'm kind of
Belina.
hoping that eventually I'm not
Esta
really
por,
going to need
de momento
that
los
party.
argumentos que está
So like a
soltando
blight situation
es
where
muy
you-
partidaria
yeah,
de
the towns are
necesito una
kinda good,
party,
but you don't need them.
tanto
Yeah,
en
exactly. Like,
PoE
I'm
1
hoping
como en
that I
PoE
can
2.
just zerg
A ver
it
qué tal
down
se
without
porta la
having to
party.
worry about
Pues ella no juega en
making
party.
sure that my setup
Dice
is
que es
good.
una
So that's-
oportunidad de probar
that's
party.
something
La de la
for
Stormbrand.
later.
Esta es la
Absolutely.
jugada
I
de
think it'll be
Stormbrand.
pretty hard on League start at least.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the hardcore perspective? Because like they said that you don't die
Right.
when you die. Is that like that's like a big thing, right?
That might, if there's any like races.
Lilly
that
es
might
muy
be a good
jugadora de
place to
carreras y de
farm
hardcore
gear,
y le he
like,
dicho,
Oh.
¿qué te parece el hecho de que la próxima liga en hardcore puedas morir y no mueras? No jugando normal, sino en la mecánica.
Like 3 days. I mean, you can't die, so
Yeah.
you just keep farming gear. Well, I guess. Did they mention how you like get the next
Eso me
thing? You might
recuerda que
have
en
to do
la
maps.
última charla esta que hicieron antes de cerrar, dijeron aprovechar la mecánica
So
que
that'll
podéis
definitely-
como morís y luego
If the lead
respawneáis
is good
a
early,
ir
you'll
con una build
definitely
de
see
custom
people
deck
doing that in
y os
hardcore,
tiréis en
just
plan
sitting
suicida
there,
contra los
farming
bichos.
it. It looks pretty fun.
Los matáis y que después que los minions limpien.
Lo dijo Chris antes de guiñarte un ojo.
Lo dijo...
Cool. And obviously we've got all
No, lo
the
dijo
new
Neo.
customization coming with that league, but we also have Sanctum League coming back. So does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I am so excited about that. I cannot wait to just run Sanctums all day again. I'm going to be buying Sanctums. I just know it.
Well, I know who to sell my Sanctums to then, because yeah, I mean you can just do that one mechanic. That's not even something you could do in Sanctum League. So
Yeah.
that's like massive quality of life that they're adding there, and it's really really good. So absolutely. Hopefully we get original
Por cierto,
Sin back.
Belinia,
That'd be pretty cool. That was a
la
sick
chica
raid,
esta, la del
absolutely.
medio, la que
I'm
no es
in
Lilly.
the same boat as you, Grim, with this. Like,
Belina.
Sanctum League was
Belina.
amazing for a lot
Belinia,
of
no,
players.
Belina.
There were so many people that just
Esta
wanted
tía
to
se
run
pasó
that
el
challenge
Santum
and
cuando
do it
pusieron lo
once.
del
I love the
pasárselo sin morir.
I think it was
Sí.
really, really good.
A ver, pasárselo sin morir me lo pasé también.
Me personally,
Pero
No,
con
el
oscuras
no hit,
eso-
el no
was
hit.
busy doing my
Se hizo la no hit. Aparte se lo hizo los
Sanctum
primeros
was not
días.
of interest to me.
Con
I
Kevin.
liked the idea of it, but it was more like I need a break from what I'm doing. I did a couple.
Una de
Sanctums,
bronze,
but
creo que
that's how
fue.
I felt about it. But since it did so well in community, I think it's going to fit very well as a core mechanic in the game.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Lily? Sanctum enjoyer?
I am a Sanctum enjoyer.
Todos los
I hope
streamers
the
son Sanctum
loot
enjoyer.
is like not nerfed too bad. Like I hope it's pretty similar because there's a really good source of divines, and right now
Yeah.
divines are kind of in a
Claro, es que
spot where,
para
especially if
jugadores de
you're playing
hardcore,
like SSF,
Sanctum era
it's
una
pretty
zona
hard to
en la que
craft. Like in
casi con
Crucible,
100% de
there wasn't
probabilidad
that many
podían sacar
divine
divine.
drops, so
Puro
Sanctum would be
divine.
a
No
good,
tenían
really
que
good source
irse
of
a
that.
drops de
Oh,
poder.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Entonces, claro, para jugadores de
it's
hardcore
fun
era
as well,
increíble.
so I'm all for it.
Acabo
Absolutely.
de abrir el kebab y
We've got the
casi
new
ya me
skill
manchó.
gems as well. There's a few spicy ones in there. I think Vengeance Cascades maybe gonna get taken.
Ya está
around
cayendo
that,
los
but that's
portales.
okay. We'll be all
Negro.
good with it.
A mí me cayó ayer, o sea que bien.
Just moving back to PoE 2, we
A mí me
saw
cayó ayer también.
so much new stuff. But I'm sure everyone was cooking up some build ideas, at least a little bit, when they saw all of those new skill gems and the new skill system. For me, it was definitely the trigger on shock. I was like, oh man, surely if I combine that with like spark and like chance to shock. And I asked one of the guys on the floor, and I'm like, does this have like a cooldown, like to trigger skills? He's like, not at the moment. So you could, in theory, just trigger so much stuff by using spark, and that would be something that I'd be like pretty interested to try. What about you guys? Lily, did you have any like crazy build ideas when you saw the new systems?
So the one, I'm not sure what it's called, but the is like you lose energy shield and it casts spells.
Oh my gosh,
so
yes.
you could stack like 30k energy shield and then just have a ton of spells going off. If it works like that, depends like if it's percentage, then that might not work so well. But if it's just like a flat amount, you could just stack a crazy amount.
Qué rara, veo de
Like,
cuello vuelto.
it'll be like kind of like Molten Shell. When that was a build, and you just walk around and then it explodes.
Surely Eldritch Battery can't be in the game because you'd be able to consume the energy shield and then trigger them all. Like, there's no way. That would be so broken.
That definitely does not work. That'd be crazy if it did.
I mean, it might.
Maybe with like a less damage multiplier.
Yeah, maybe.
Como un macho.
Exacto.
I think it's going to be pretty strong though. And
Igual es que en esa compañía está un pelín
give us the
caliente.
minion perspective, Ghazzy.
Acalorado, perdón.
With Spirit, the new way to reserve auras, but also summon
Esta casa tiene
minions,
una
and you can get a ton of it on your gear now, and it's like on scepters, rings, amulets. What's it looking like from your perspective as the minion master?
Very
Lo que ocurre en la otra punta del mundo.
Se queda en la otra punta del mundo.
No, ya no se pueden conseguir las salas, solo el portal. Hoy solo el portal.
But we're also expecting to have that combined with auras to make sure that our minions gets buffed. So it's going to be a balance act between our auras and our minions, unless there are other mechanics they have in store for us. What's really interesting with PoE 2 in the gameplay approach is obviously the fact that they want us to run with a combination of spells. They don't want us to have one-button builds like the Magic Find KB, Tornado Shots. You know all about that.
Es justo lo que he dicho antes, que nosotros jugamos así.
In PoE 1 is already in many cases a very active gameplay approach.
Toda la liga.
Eso
sí, no sé cómo lo hace que el cabrón siempre 5 días tiene el mid block.
Pero porque no lo compra sobre, se junta con generalmente se junta con un par de personas más y lo que hacen es comprar uno entre los tres.
Y entonces él ahora rusea el resto. Eso no lo había entendido. Como tú con EPA.
Than it already is, but since we don't have those details, it's very hard to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, one thing which I was super duper curious about, at least for me, for PoE 2, because you get all these 6 links, right? It's like, as a minion player, the spirit only takes the permanent minions to like kind of reserve. So what about all these temporary minions that are in the game right now? You could in theory have like, 20 summon raging spirits, all the skeletons out, and your specters and potentially zombies at the same time as well. Is that something you're cooking up already?
I mean, that's we're going to circle back to what we talked about with Cast on the Shock.
Oh.
Now imagine an Overstorm out there where critical strike chance, where increased shock chance and everything for that, and you put your little SRS on that one. That's going to permanently summon those on a boss target, and if you have that on the 6th lane, or
claro, visto de esa manera es una putada, porque si vas con el 100% del espíritu gastado en minion, no puedes gastar nada en auras. Y si gastas en auras, estás perdiendo potencia de minions. ¿Hasta qué punto van a equilibrar lo suficientemente bien? Vale la pena llevar 4 minions a cambio de llevarlos muy bufados.
Tienes que hacer calcularlo. Si meto esta aura, voy a perder 2 minions. Me sale worth.
Pero es injusto que ahora, como solo hay un recurso, tú que necesitas gastar dando cosas tengas la mitad de potencia que no que lo gastas.
Por eso mismo las armas de minions te dan espíritu para compensar ese gasto que tienes en los minions. Habrá que ver cómo quedan los valores, pero sí que te aportan.
I'm overwhelmed by all the different new abilities that they've added, how smooth and fluid they look, what it's going to be like to try to combo them together. I'm really interested to see just how many skills out there that I can combo with, like, I don't know, Impale, for example. I would like to see what they...
Gente, si se suscribe una persona más, les toca taco. Ahí lo dejo.
No, por favor.
Active skill gems. Active. That's nuts.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's not just that, they've kind of like reworked all of the current skill gems as well. To, like,
exactly.
Like Herald of Thunder, it's got 100% fizz to lightning conversion now.
Yeah.
Like what? Like that was like so hard to get before in PoE 1. You needed like gloves and all sorts of stuff to get that, but now it's just on a Herald. So yeah, like it's crazy. Like it's everything is changing.
Acaba de decir
que antes te da la conversión.
Te da la conversión de físico a rayo.
Sí.
Que ahora ya no vas a necesitar guantes.
También
han quitado el paso de... O sea, es todo físico algo. Eso lo han dicho antes. Eso dejaron
que ya no hay ciclo.
Cada te hará cambiar
el físico al elemento.
Pero no puedes devolverlo a físico para volver a transformarlo.
Ni puedes hacer...
Un fuego rayo. Pero sí que puedes hacer a lo mejor un rayo caos. Que a lo mejor el caos no funciona con físico caos, sino que sí tiene una
el alto Fagón y no sé si transformaría.
Well, we have a dodge roll in
other games of recent releases,
so it definitely reminded me of that
físico
approach.
O con
What's
el
really
peto,
funny is that they confirmed that we're
Físico,
going to do this
a ver,
now,
Caos
as well
está
as
fuera de
changes.
la...
So we're going to see a lot of bears rolling into town. That's going to be very fun.
De la conversión,
For
eso.
a few days, we're literally just going to see that in the
En teoría, ahora mismo cualquier elemento se puede convertir a Caos.
The gameplay feels like you are having an actual proper reactional gameplay experience. I know that they've wanted to have that in PoE1, where it's supposed to be reactive, but it's very hard when you have a skeleton one-shotting you in the higher mouse.
Sí, pero el
shock
o el Índice solo va a evitar que se le curen en el misil y el shock solo va a hacer que le haga más daño.
No lo aturde, no me mete como...
You are able to actually genuinely dodge that, and even if you do the dodge right as the ability lands,
le metieron knockback a uno de los bosses, le metieron un stun de igual 3 segundos.
Pero eso es
I feel like that's a really good step in the right direction
for
you actually playing the game the way they
want,
but it also fits very well in what I prefer to play as well.
Absolutely, I imagine on minions it's going to be completely broken because you can be dodge rolling around while your minions are going to town. What does this mean for like hardcore? Do you think it gives you more control, more agency, or is it kind of like what do you think about that?
It definitely made the boss fights feel like more fluid. So in hardcore, if like say you run out of flame dash charges, right? I mean, you're kind of just running around awkwardly, or you kind of like dodge slightly, you're out of flasks, everything, so you're just kind of like awkwardly moving around there, just force move, right? But now you can dodge and made it like a lot more fluid, so you can dodge around the boss and make sure you're in its like safe spot behind its back. Like
en hardcore ese dodge, para cuando te quedas sin cargas de frame dabs o lo que sea, te da la puta vida.
They like flip around, then you can flip around them, you don't just like awkwardly walk around.
Es muy diferente la supervivencia en hardcore si tienes ese rol, ese scroll.
Ya, es verdad, pero yo no he visto a nadie con flame dash.
Está Pableras ahí.
Attack roll.
Presente.
And that definitely felt really strong. You like that as well?
Oh my god,
that felt so
smooth. Entiendo que lo ha invitado allí, ¿o qué?
Nice speech, like the first boss that I fought, which by the way, very deadly.
No, lo pagó él, creo, Pableras.
When I finally got
y ahora mismo encontrar sitio para dormir allí no debe ser fácil. Y la entrada...
Allí no, pero cerca yo creo que no tiene que ser. Es decir, no son tanta gente. Como para petar los hoteles.
What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
¡Oh, Dios! ¿Cómo está temblando esta chica? ¿Lo estáis viendo?
Pip Zaragoza, muchísimas gracias por esa sub, se te quiere. Hala, disfruta del toque. Le acabas de meter un toque de puta madre a Taco.
So yeah, I really appreciate the dodge roll, and I love that there's no cooldown on it.
Yes, there is literally no cooldown. Like if the enemy is attacking or shooting, you can spam dodge roll and be kind of like almost pseudo immune while you're dodging. Like
Grimro se lo está pasando de puta madre.
Take him out, and you'll need to attack.
Él no tiene ningún tipo de miedo.
Roll as much as you want.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing minions.
Unless, how are they going to balance
y este también parece cómodo.
Está
temblando muchísimo la pobre.
Sí, está muy nerviosa.
Roll, you're immune to everything except AoE damages. Because that would be broken, especially for, totem builds.
A ver, no, ya no está en la sala, ya se terminó ese drop.
Sequences as well. But I definitely think that there is definitely a time frame where you're still being able to hit, but you can do that initial immunity roll.
En plan de que te quedas en una esquina y haces roll y lo esquivas todo el cruce. Si eres minion, te da igual.
¿Me lo dices a mí? Que lo que hago para matar a Uber es dar vueltas.
Pues en vez de dar vueltas normal haces dodge haciendo una vuelta.
The skill tree on the demo, so we couldn't do the kind of 10 points here, 10 points there. But do you guys actually?
Para que no lo haya entendido, pues acaso quien se lo ha perdido. Ghazzy, que es jugador, el chico que es jugador de minions, dice que en el caso que lleves minion, cualquiera de los bosses que han enseñado durante la beta son muy sencillos. Te pones en una esquina de la arena y te dedicas a dodgear, que te hace que estés esquivando el control de masas en el CC. Y los minions se encargan del resto.
No, a ver, escudo, la chica esta sí que está acostumbrada, tiene de normal 1000 personas en streaming. Lo que pasa es que es un evento tochísimo.
Tampoco hay tanta gente en el evento, ¿eh?
Tenía en el evento no, pero a ver.
De tribuna. Está acojonada por la presencia, por la importancia, por el sitio.
Claro, es por la importancia, por el sitio, no es por la gente.
Porque tiene por ahí a Chris guiñándole un ojo.
No, lo guiña a todos.
No se ve, pero aquí, de este lado de la cámara, está Chris súper serio mirándoles fijamente.
Eso será si termina de mirar el que palmó ayer contra el boss.
Sí, ya está en la calle.
Poético. Han editado el vídeo de YouTube y han quitado ese trozo.
Eso les pasa por ponerlo tan bestia para la demo.
Y decora se llama el bicho ese que hay de fondo, gente.
Hidekura. Eso es lo que grita el Marauder.
El Marauder es un Karui y es la jefa de las tribus Karui.
Sí. Cuando sales de la playa dice Hidekura, no sé qué.
¿Cómo dice?
Hidekura, no sé cuántos.
Yes, the books.
Which is going to be like how many books are in the game, how many passive points am I going to be able to actually put around my tree.
Eso es verdad.
Make this really worth it to do.
Absolutely.
But I think it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be definitely. I can't imagine trying to implement this in Po 1. I really can't, because there's just no way that we play like that right now.
Yeah, I mean, with all these questions, it's fortunate that the next panel coming up is literally a Q&A. So it's kind of like we get to answer some of these questions. So, I mean, that's going to kind of be not one to miss. And we're going to be jumping over there. I'm assuming all of us right after. It's going to be huge. But one of the biggest changes, which I think we didn't hear too much about it initially, was the large change to the currency items that seem to be dropping in PoE 2. So, I mean, it's still a while out, so things can change. But right now, there doesn't seem to be any scouring orbs or alterations. And
no era Scuri, no era Alterator.
Reworked to some extent.
El caos es diferente.
So there's not really any way to
Están en shock.
Forge a rare item specifically in your hideout other than an alchemy orb. And Ghazzy, tell us what this means for crafting.
Well, my wrist and fingers are very thankful for the change, I can tell you that, because I remember when we started playing PoE, I made a mirror amulet, or mirror service amulet, as the items are called, very high end, and it took me about 500,000 alterations orbs, and a lot of time. My fingers were not happy with me. But, you know, fast forward to where we are now, and looking at the PoE 2 change, I think that it's going to be a lot easier for new and casual players to actually engage with crafting. It's not going to be as advanced. You will also have an increased interest in looting items.
Eso es verdad. La gente que entre nueva al juego lo va a tener como mucho más fácil, porque realmente el ítem, si es bueno, va a ser porque te cae bueno. Y no tienen que pasar por todo ese proceso que hay que aprender, que hay que aplicar, y que es una dificultad que hay que aprender.
Using a Chaos Orb in the item will scrap everything and reroll all of the modifiers, and new players or casual players would not be incentivized enough to engage with crafting. So I think
dice que los jugadores nuevos no tienen incentivos para aprender a craftear a día de hoy, y que este cambio va a hacer que tú lo coges. Si se parece a lo que tienes que tener, es más sencillo.
What about in solo self-found? I think you've done in solo self-found, right?
Yeah, I split it between.
Bascular para que, por ejemplo, en tier 16 no te salga un tier 8 de resistencia y un tier 8 de vida.
Pero que no sabéis cómo va a ser el juego. A lo mejor la Liga 1 de PoE 2 es Harvest. Es literalmente no sabemos qué herramientas van a tener. Solo sabemos qué herramientas tenemos ahora que no vamos a tener entonces, pero no cuáles vamos a tener entonces que no tenemos ahora.
Ni cómo hacer crafteo.
I don't remember. It seems the new Chaos Orb kind of seems to me like the stuff you'll pick up will be a bit better, and maybe you only want to switch like one thing on it, because what it does is it like changes one thing and then
adds another one.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we'll see like better gear pickups, like they mentioned in Exilecon, the first one, and it'll just be picking stuff up will be your main source of getting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And my fellow Huntress gamer here, I don't know if you saw it, but there's a new currency, gold. And of course, you can buy items off the vendor, like flasks and stuff like that, but there is in fact a gambler in town, and you can use gold to gamble for infinite types of any item you would like. So it's essentially kind of like a Chaos Orb to some extent. You can like buy 10 spears and you could get uniques, rares, magic items. What do you think of that system, Melina?
Sí, se dijo que se iba a poder gastar el oro para gamblear.
It's going to be really different. Like just the idea of using gold instead of using a transmute or using a
hay un NPC
something like that to buy
sí, hay un NPC como cada la que te da un ítem aleatorio. Tú le dices, dame anillos. Y entonces directamente te da y a ver qué te cae. Entonces la utilidad es gambleo. Pues que esa será entre comillas el caos. Dame anillos, a ver si me sale una base buena.
You get a pretty good amount of it when you first start out. Like I know I
me la hará gracias por ese Prime. Sí, está metiendo un montón de RNG. Está dando un paso enorme hacia atrás en ese sentido.
In the first town, so that was really nice. And I like that it's auto pickup.
Si os parecéis un poquito a mí, gente, vosotros sois 100% inmunes a este parche. Porque vais a seguir haciendo lo mismo que ahora mismo. Buscas en el mercado que tenga todo lo que tú quieres y pagas su precio. Si el precio es más alto, farmear más tiempo. Si el precio es más bajo, de puta madre. Os da igual cómo se haya producido ese ítem. No os importa.
Ya, pero las personas que intentamos ahorrarnos ese... por conocimiento.
Sí, vosotros vais a tener que flipear un ratito más.
There's definitely different aspects of it. I do want to say that I do agree with Valina with the stack size. I want to take it a step further than that and say that it should be on a separate window. Now, I understand we're going to have to feel the weight of it, but it's already an auto pickup. Why would it need to take space in our inventory? Because the way a lot of in-game players, I think, is going to utilize the system is to gamble a lot of it. And 5,000 gold ain't going to cut it.
No.
So I definitely think people will sell these to make sure that people can buy it. But if we're going to look at it on the basic general idea of the gold system, I think it's a great addition to the game simply because it is locked behind the vendors and you have a new or casual player playing the game and they realize, hey, I have a ring that I used since level 12. I have to upgrade this piece to progress further because I'm struggling on this next boss. They can use their gold and they can specifically say, I want that ring. And then roll a couple of rings from the gold gambling and see if they can get a rare one or a magic one that would fit their build. And I think that's a great way to basically not target farm, but you can target acquire the items that you need that you have on the worst slots for your characters, so you can progress that. And that immersion and level of character progression, I think, is really good on the early stage of the game. The late game, like you mentioned,
sí, ¿cómo voy a querer ese anillo azul en acto 18?
Cuando te pongas a jugarlo y veas ese arma de acto 4 con un modificador azul, la vas a querer.
Absolutely, it's definitely a very new and interesting system. It mixes things up a lot. But I think overall, after playing the demo, my takeaway was that it's definitely got a lot more room to kind of use a lot more player skill. At least that's how it felt. Like on the Sorcerer, you got to use a Frost Wall to make sure the mobs don't get to you and stun you, and all sorts of stuff like that. Overall, do you guys like the combo kind of play style, or did you like kind of like maybe want to go for a more one skill? What was your overall feel with the demo? Just to wrap us up here. Lilly,
I really like
I
think it really makes sense that they split the game because it is just so different in pacing and everything. But I think it felt good. I do like that Q1 still get updates. So when I do want to play the one-button builds and just blast there, I can go play that.
Iba todo ilusionado porque iba con
when I want to do the combos, I can play PoE2. And I usually always play like
no es una locura de daño, o sea, tanquea como Dios, pero es una locura de daño. Y yo ahí, qué guay, cómo se empurró la mecánica de lo de que te da stacks, las cosas que metieron, la pequeñita de historia que te da stacks según el lado en el que estás y tal. Yo aprendiendo todo eso, esquivando las pelotitas de fuego como podía. Y luego, claro, llegó este con no sé qué build y yo en plan, bueno, ahora se va a enfrentar a él, no sé qué.
Lo destrocé.
Quería exacto. Y dice, le va a costar un poco las mecánicas, pero se lo va a pasar. Llegó, pum, lo pisó en 2 segundos y bueno.
No me acuerdo que estuve jugando, pero lo pisé vivo.
A él y luego al rojo exactamente igual.
Y se quedó como...
Pues
vale.
Vaya, tanto trabajo, y dice, me dijo, ¿tú juegas para la mecánica? Y dice, sí, ¿qué mecánica?
What about you, Ghazzy, to finish us off in a couple minutes here?
Luego ya cuando lo jugué en versión V,
we're already very active in the gameplay. It's something that I adore when it comes to RPG games, which is probably why I enjoy
Pero que tienen los RPGs, si vas a
like playing things like Dark Path.
¿Qué mecánicas?
So I already have that approach of active gameplay. So having that in a sense of combinations of skills, I do like the fact that there aren't any big cooldowns on the abilities. You can spam them, but the best way to use them is
teníamos
obviously
mucho
in the
respeto en
correct
plan
order.
a la Uber,
Porque
siempre nos la hacía y llegamos y empezó a hasta luego, hasta luego, y yo, joder.
Es que claro, como estamos acostumbrados a enfrentarnos a ella cuando llegamos, literalmente, de que nuestra PvP tiene 20 caos, 30 caos.
And then you would ice over those and then use your comment. And then if there was a really big guy in there, you would use the staff to get the unleash on that.
Taco, pero esto es como... Y perdón, fue esta liga que vi tarde de a ver qué puedo ver de Poe. Entré en el directo de un tío e iba a Uber Shaper. Vale, el tío se metió, le tanqueó el rush, el rayo este que tira, y la vida le hacía pop, 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 y le desaparecía. No me acuerdo que estaba jugando Clave, creo, una cosa así. Oh, vale. O sea, esta persona no está jugando al mismo juego.
We really just want to find out more, so we're going to go straight over to the Q&A now, and it's going to be very interesting to see what we see.